Well, friends of Not Only, see, here we are. We are on Lake Maggiore under the Rocca di Angera and near me. Lev 9 50 tender version. Scanner Marina wanted to present this version of the 9 and 50. We knew him with the borrower, with all the borrower for the port version. Here they made one in a tender version, precisely designed as a tender use, which in my opinion also likes those who do port, because now we will see this. This dinette that they have recreated in the cockpit is spectacular. Let's say 912M wide dinghy, 3 and 60 with tubular inflated tubulars, that as we have now accustomed scanners, you harmonize with what then is the whole structure. See the curved stern mirror? A limousine of the sea. I always define it as very elegant, very refined in design, and at the stern we have two 400 horsepower V10s that we will try, but now first we get on board. I will introduce it to you. I will make you take a quick tour and see what the layout of this 9E50 tender is like, and then we go out with Fabio Montemito of Scanner to try out the performances of these two Mercury V10s on a spectacular hull that is that of the 9E50. And here we are on board the V950 tender. I immediately wanted to open it with this image. Well, this is the real novelty that distinguishes it from the 9 and 50, from which we already knew from Porto. Well, here they took away everything that was sunbathing and recreated this area. It is an area destined to the transport of our passengers, our friends who will be on board, because the use of the tender is also made to bring many people. You should know that here now we will see it. There could be 18 of them sitting comfortably like I am sitting at the moment, and here there is also the possibility of having a table and recreating the convivial area. So here you can also have a lunch, and then instead bringing the table to the height of the kitchen. Away we have a huge sun deck that goes to recreate what was originally LM9 and 50, the sun deck. This cushion that at this moment completes all our dinette and recreated precisely in the covered area of 9 and 50 tender. Well, you can take this off and have a free walk. With the solid tech that is, the master accompanies us on our beach. The beach is obtained on the stern mirror to be able to take a dive, to be able to, because the tender is often used then for pleasure by those who have an important boat. With this, maybe you can also spend some beautiful days. Then the planks that house our ladders, load-bearing structure. The T-top that rests and is fixed on what is the bar cabinet, where then the driver's seat is also obtained. But let's focus on what they got into this piece of furniture. Well, here, of course, we have a sink with a traditional gas stove, but there you can also have the induction plate or whatever you want. You can set this up as you want, guys. Gel coat is shiny. This is important. I often find myself dealing with, when you open, you find the surprise, maybe the raw Dr. No-No scanner, and in all the cabinets you find the gel coat worked for. Give that finish and elegance to a medium that can't be beautiful on the outside and ugly on the inside. Another important detail studied precisely for the tender version. And well, gentlemen, when we have to make the transition from our boat to the mother boat, from the tender to the mother boat, a step in here on the head of the band becomes the further step to then take us to the level of what could be our boat, which in this case is a dock. Passage to reach. What instead is the bow area, very comfortable. Keep well here too, so you can feel calm during the passage. Do you see how we have 50 centimeters of width between what is the console and the sidewall of the dinghy? Keep in mind that we really find them everywhere. Wherever we are, we always have a secure grip and reach. The boat dinette called him a dinette. Why here, boys? Here we can set up another table to create a second dinette, which can be for children, for example. The adults are maybe at the stern. As you prefer. The use of the two dinettes, and look how comfortable this area is also here. I will find space here, in my opinion, 4, 5 people comfortably sitting, and look, if I sit here, so I can also find a nice place here. Do you see who sits here finds his customers? Well, everyone has that safety and comfort on board that becomes fundamental in a tender. Another important thing to underline regarding the ENV 950, also the port version, but in this case the tender version. Well, we will never have any sketches even in this area. The bow is very high on the water. We are about 112M at the moment. And from what is the body of water, and the hull has been studied with one own design that conveys the water to the outside. So in any situation, the water will always be sent to the outside and will never return on board. So wherever we are from here to the aft cockpit, we will never have any water and splash on board. Here we are in command of the ENB 950 tender version. Nice command area that is easy for when we are sporty. So when we want to rest our kidneys here, we are at the right distance from what is the rudder. Handcuffs without making strange movements. See how easy it is?
Getting to everything.
What it is. The instrumentation to pilot our AEB 950. The seat that, however, once we have set the course and maybe we have to travel a few miles, can easily become, with this movement, a nice comfortable sofa. A really comfortable chair for two people. Here, it was designed for two people in command, so those who bring the vehicle alongside can have someone with him console that houses all the necessary equipment. Where the door also finds space, and now we will see why we still find something below deck and 19 and 50 designed to be outdoors, therefore to accommodate many people above deck, but below deck they managed to obtain a nice double and a bath. I would say let's not waste any more time. Now we will be joined by Fabio Montemitro, owner of the scanner with which we will go out to test the performance of two 400 horsepower V10 from Mercury on a hull that we know very well, the EV950. The hull is the same, but the weight distribution has changed a bit, so let's see what we can achieve with these two Mercury jewels. And he has me.
Fabio Montemitro arrived.
Marine scanner. We are on board precisely what I presented to you. A very particular version of the EV950 is set up as a tender. So us now, with Fabio, we want to give a demonstration of what are also the hydrodynamic characteristics. A hull that comes from 9 and 50, we already know, obviously changes a little what maybe is there.
Weight distribution now at
We'll see. We have two W10s from Mercury.
400 horsepower.
Each 800 horsepower in total on a vehicle that weighs. We're around 3,500.
135 kilos, for which I will now give you.
Some data we set everything up. We have the cameras that help us show you what I tell you. Then if you agree, I show you the glide right away. Will the 800 horsepower glide be immediate? Calm? But here she is. See how.
Immediately he lies down. There he is outside. Once you are glided, you have exploited all the power. Clearly, if you want to sail at a quieter speed, now we are 30 knots immediate. Did you get them?
But then maybe go to.
Here's to remove to decide if we want to walk at 25 or 20. The minimum glide, in my opinion, here.
We're in our 20s.
Knots like no gliding can also be under, but as cruising this, no. Here it is, this 19-20 knots is the minimum cruising, not gliding. It stays gliding even at lower revs, but there you are on the edge. In my opinion, this is the perfect gait for those who want to take a walk also on the lake. 20 knots Condot Sumo, 50 liters. Now both engines are 20 cylinders that are spinning, and we are practically just over the liter mile. We are at 1 liter and 2 per engine for each.
Mile we walk
This goes
in kilometers.
We're in fresh water, but we think in knots and miles. So here we are, this one.
It's the least.
Veneto cruise, instead a cruise more suitable for what is the hull of 9 and 50 perhaps is this one here, 26, 27 knots. 28, and he immediately resumes here. This seems to me a pace where he is extended very well, and in fact the consumption ratio is also on 77 liters or 75. The control units are coming down. Give him the time, 74 to 30 knots, and we are still very close to the liter mile. And this is an important figure. It means that the hull exploits the 800 horses very well, and this is the pace in which perhaps it optimizes the ratio of consumption in proportion to the revolutions. 3,500 revolutions, 30 knots, 29 knots, 74 liters. Now this, I believe, is the cruise, the perfect cruise. After that we can have a slightly more cheerful cruise. Maybe we are in a hurry that day to sail, and then we go up to 33, 34 knots. Always cruising regime. We are at 4,000. Here's 35 knots, 4,200 RPM. Look at this. I always consume 90, 95 liters total, which means around 1.5 liters per engine for each.
Mile we walk.
35 knots, 95 liters, 4,000 RPM. I would say that this is also a data that confirms what I told you. You see that when the conditions are these, those who compete know.
It's often done.
It's hard to get out of the water because there's no rippling motion that makes you jump. And so when the conditions are these that seem optimal because it's a mirror almost, but actually the hull here is more difficult to detach from the water. And look at this, 4,000. Now let's go up a bit. We are still in a regime that I can still consider cruising a very cheerful cruise. 38 knots.
And 4,500 laps with a consumption that we are now. He's playing with the handle a little bit. Let's give him time to settle. 38, 39 knots, 100 liters now. So we're basically left with a consumption similar to before, but we're at 38 knots, and this is already a merry cruise, eh? From here on, well, we start to play. From here on, we exploit all the horses. Let's also see the maximum speed.
We are going to see it to give you a data that has its importance, because when we put 400 V10, we certainly also want to be able to race. 50 knots, 5,500 RPM continues to rise, and it is now we hear the roar of the V10 that is heard. Very cold air on the lake. 55, 56 knots, 6,300. I won't give it to you anymore, but we're at 56 knots, guys. I would say that is already a very good result. Now he's playing with the trim. Maybe he gave him too much. Here it is, because it is 56 knots. We have taken them, and at this point I will hold on because we will also show you how it behaves at 45 knots. Here is the turn. We see our camera working. You see the tubular as it is working very well to avoid skidding. You see how the dinghy remains almost like a racing car. It looks like a go-kart. It doesn't bend. And you saw how at 40 knots we reversed course. Governability is also excellent. Now let's go this other way. 53, 54 knots, Mamma Mia. It's really very, very sporty fun as a vehicle. There he is, 35 knots. Look how Fabio enjoys making him play, having fun, because then we know very well that those who use a tender often then become the toy of adults. And there comes into play how he behaves. Watch my camera, go like this, they see how the pipe works. There he is.
That you can see just how the pipe is working. We are at 25 knots. Total bend is closing it all, right? And at this point, we are practically turning on the diameter of the dinghy. We do not feel our waves. This is because it actually has a hull that the wave, when it meets the size. Here they are, the waves that we have formed. You know that these are difficult waves because there are also those waves that are a little broken up. You see, here they are. We pass over them as if nothing happened.
Oh, that really gives so much satisfaction. Joy 3, but now we relaunch it. It takes 50 knots immediately. It takes them in a few seconds. Here it is, and then from 50, we start to play a little with the trim to go up, and now we are at 5,500 RPM, right? 50 knots consumption. Well, it exceeds 250 liters. But do you have 20 cylinders singing? Here they are and reach 58. Now we have taken 50, 09, and 30, and this time here we go. Perfect trim, 6,300 RPM, 50, 60 knots, 60 knots at 6,400 RPM. Guys, what stuff, what stuff, Mamma Mia. Nice, nice. Feeling safe at 60 knots, nothing moves. He feels it in the rudder, that's important. We know that now at 50 knots, 52 knots, it feels like we're on a cruise. Actually, we're at 53 knots, and look at this.
Show always controlled, always with horses. Here the hull is sliding on the water, but always that thread of contact with the water that makes him able to govern it. So if there is an obstacle at the last moment, we can still avoid it, even if we are cheerful. Look at this, 57 knots. Oh my goodness, why didn't AA come back? What did he do more? And currents are important. There is wind and currents that you can't see, and sometimes you just have to guess the right current. Boys, 16 Nori, I would say that you get more into the racing regime. So then you have to put us.
The helmet on the belts? Well, I think that. Here, what was the water test we gave you with this special day on Lake Maggiore? I thank Fabio who lent himself as a driver. Then you gave us demonstration of what a car can do.
Hull scanner really compliments home. Scanner to Fabio and the whole scanner family. No, we see you for the next test. Always suinonsolomer.tv. Greetings to everyone from Lake Maggiore, a cold of misery.
Hello, everyone.